Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. It's currently Monday, the 12th of January for us, which means that we have some WSL football to talk about for the first time in 2026. Exciting times. But before we do that, we should address some allegations made against one of our team members. That is around, the picture that you can see on the screen at the moment if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. And Jacob, I thought you might want a chance to sort of address these allegations about you actually being an Arsenal fan.
I just wanted to clear any allegations that were potentially made. If this was done intentionally, it would have been such a stupid thing to do. I'm gonna. I believe the photo is fake. Or if it's not fake, I didn't realise it was an Arsenal cup. So.
No, we are still a varied podcast. We've not just got 4 Arsenal fans on.
I think Jacob's a traitor.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm faithful, I promise.
Jacob's Fiona in disguise.
Jacob, I love you, man, but I think you're a traitor.
I don't know where this is all coming from.
Alongside myself and Jacob, we've got the other 2 regulars on. We have the wonderful Izzy Duddy sporting a new shirt.
I am. I've raided my dad's closet for this one. In solidarity, I was really excited to go down to the Vitality to watch Bournemouth women take on Man City in the FA Cup. My dad's from Bournemouth, so we go down there a lot, and I guess I won't be going because there's no tickets because they will be holding it at AFC Totton, which is a very small ground. Disappointed that I won't get my debut trip to the Vitality because my dad does come down a lot to the Emirates with me to watch Arsenal women. I thought it was only about time I went down and supported the Cherries, but was not meant to be.
Maybe next time. Well, if it makes him feel any better, I've got black and red stripes on today as well, and kind of a solidarity move as well, even if it might be somewhere a little bit further away. And then rounding us off today is, as ever, it's Mr. Tom Maher. Tom, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm all good, and very well said, Izzy, as well. That's a really disappointing story from the last week or so, and well, Bournemouth are just going to have to win this round and play the next round at the Vitality, you'd hope. But well said, Izzy. But I'm all good. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, Happy New Year. This is my first time on the pod this year. It's Happy New Year, listener, viewer as well. I probably should have said that earlier on. And yeah, fingers crossed for all of us, because none of us are City fans, that Bournemouth do go well this weekend, because we always like to see the underdog do well. Let's get into the WSL football that we actually have to talk about, though. We've got, although, let's be honest, not a lot of goals to talk about. We do have a lot of talking points to cover. So let's go straight into a quick review of the weekend's games. Jade Riviere lived up to her team's name, the Red Devils, managing to grind out a 0-0 despite being down to 10 at the Emirates. New West Ham manager Rita Guarino had a debut to forget as Chelsea reigned supreme at Kingsmeadow. Another cracker from Kirsty was the winner against Brighton and put Villa into the top half in the process. She tried her best, but Courtney couldn't keep City quiet as the home side won for the 11th WSL game on the trot. Ash Neville scored the winner for Spurs just 3 days after leaving the club. Yep, you did hear that right. And finally, Liverpool get their first clean sheet of the season, but still await their first win as they drew with London City Lionesses. But we're going to start with the game at the Emirates. This one Saturday, 12:30, the only Saturday game. We saw debuts for Smilla Holmberg, Leah Schuller and Hannah Lundqvist all off the bench, which was nice to see. The bench wasn't so kind to Simia Wujo. She was subbed off 11 minutes after being subbed on due to Jade Riviere's red card. I know Mark Skinner did make a comment about that after and basically said he didn't really want to, but sort of needs must. It's the first time in the WSL that Arsenal and Man United have drawn twice in a row, which is a stat I hadn't clocked, but thank you to everyone at Sky Sports for saying that repeatedly throughout the match. And it is the first time under Slagers that Arsenal haven't scored at a home match in the WSL, although Slagers does still have an unbeaten home record. So a fair amount of stats to come out of this game. Arsenal still 7 games unbeaten in the WSL as well. But Tom, I know you wanted to touch a little bit on Manchester United and notably Mark Skinner.
Yeah, exactly. It was an interesting game, this one. Obviously, United came out the block, started really well, had a fantastic chance with brilliant wing play from Anna Sandberg and Jess Park, and setting up Friedlina Rolfe, and just a phenomenal save from Annette Borb. And that was about it for Man United in terms of attacking for the rest of the game. They clocked out basically and just decided to defend, which I think is interesting for a number of reasons. I mean, I saw a stat that Man United have won one of their last 16 matches against the rest of the top four in the WSL. And you can kind of see why with this type of performance. It didn't feel very ambitious from them. Obviously, when they go down to 10 players, they're hamstrung and they have to defend then. But I just feel like it didn't, they kind of had an excuse to go even further back, but it felt like they weren't really making any offensive strides anyway. And it does bring up the question about where United are at the moment. And maybe he's looking at those games against City and the game against Arsenal even last year or the year before, where they shipped a few like 4 goals and 3 goals and, trying to shut up shop again worked well at Lee Sports Village. So maybe that's what we should do again, essentially. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting one from him because I felt like he really wanted to be structured in this game. He didn't want to take Jade Riviere off. I thought that second yellow was coming a mile off, to be honest. I don't know what everyone else thought, but it really felt like Olivia Smith was running her ragged, and then, Caitlin Ford comes on fresh legs, and it is a lazy challenge, to be honest. And we know how good Jade Riviere is, but I thought Skinner's done her no favors there. And then obviously he's got to make that decision to bring off Simi Awujo. And yeah, I asked him about that after the game, and I thought his response was really interesting. Just saying about how, asked about how he deals with working with a player on the kind of more personnel and emotional side of something like that. Because like you said earlier, Sam, he said, it's not personal or anything like that. It's just something that he had to do. And he was talking about being transparent with her, that he apologized to her, that he said that he's going to address it again, and that he needed to be vulnerable with her because that's a part of leadership. I thought that was really interesting, to be honest, coming from a WSL manager, and positive as well. So I think with Manchester United, there's a lot of questions. But yeah, for a 0 draw, a lot happened. And I think, thinking about Hannah Lundqvist's debut, I thought she looked really bright, did a Maradona turn within about 2 minutes of being on the pitch. And then Leah Schuler maybe wasn't really the game for her to come on in once they got the red card. She's just completely isolated up front. But I think I just worry, if I was a United fan, about their ambition long term, if they keep on going to these big clubs and not going for the jugular like they did at the City of Manchester Stadium. Because it just feels all too often they're trying to go and pick up a draw. And that's not going to put you above these teams by the end of the season, I think.
Izzy, you were obviously at the game as well. How did you see this game from your perspective?
Well, I was in the stands. So from a spectator's perspective, I would say not the best game. It was quite cold. Luckily, I was in the trial stands where you can have a beer, so I was able to have a bit of a beer and a chat during some of the slower moments. But no, in all seriousness, I think it's interesting what Tom said about United, because I kind of came away, at least from an Arsenal perspective, feeling the same thing. I mean, other than that early sort of period, they dominated the game and had lots and lots of chances. And obviously, United did go very defensive, but they were also a man down, woman down by the end of it. And I just feel like if you can't convert that as well at the end of the day to a win, that's a bit of a worry as well. It just felt like, for all the individual moments of great play, because there was some. I mean, as a team, I don't think there were too many people sort of letting the side down. I just think none of it sort of failed to convert. So yeah, for me, that was a bit of a worry. Although I will say I was sitting right next to the side where Smilla Holmberg came on at the end, and she was, for the brief moment she was on the pitch, I thought she was fantastic, and I think she's a really great addition to the squad, and she seemed already to be sort of linking up nicely with other players, so hopefully that's more of a positive note to end on. I think she's going to be really key when they need to sort of rotate out Emily Fox in the future.
Yeah, I think that's basically what she's been brought in for as well, isn't it? Just to be that bit of extra depth, because I was going to say Arsenal haven't really had that. They've had Jenna Niswonger, who can do that. Katie McCabe obviously can play on the right if she really needs to, but I think, Niswonger is obviously out of favour, and you'd rather keep McCabe on the left if you can. So, I think getting in Smilla Holmberg has been a really good acquisition for Arsenal, and for years to come, hopefully will be as well, as she continues to improve, as she gets towards her prime. Let's move on to Sunday's games, and we're going to start with Chelsea 5, West Ham 0. Uendo putting the ball past her own keeper in the first minute. Not the start that new West Ham manager Rita Guarino would have wanted. Lauren James, Liz Thompson, Sondy Baltimore all then scored before half-time. Baltimore added her second and Chelsea's fifth from the spot in the second half. It's now 6 losses in the 6 away games in the WSL this season for West Ham. They have conceded a lot of goals. And Jacob, I want to throw this over to you, because I think you've got some stats on West Ham's defensive frailties, don't you?
Yeah, I do indeed. I actually did a bit of a comparison of the statistics in the Chelsea-West Ham game and the statistics in the Arsenal-United game. And there's actually not much difference in it, which is bizarre, because the Arsenal-United game was 0-0 and the Chelsea-West Ham game was 5-0. If you look at the XG, the Chelsea-West Ham XG, Chelsea had 3.7 to 0.2 for West Ham. In the Arsenal game, Arsenal had 2.7 to 0.4 for United. In terms of shots, Chelsea had 23 shots to West Ham's 5. Arsenal had 25 shots to United's 4. And in terms of possession, Chelsea had 64% possession and Arsenal also had 64% possession. So it's interesting how you can have very similar stats, but a complete different scoreline. And the reason is because of, West Ham's defensive frailties. I didn't watch the game live just because I was at the Spurs game, and watching it back, I was just mesmerised by how many of Chelsea's goals were because of West Ham defensive errors. And it started within 46 seconds, that own goal from Endo, and it almost got worse from there. The second goal was probably the worst of the lot. I mean, you do have to give credit to Lauren James for pressing King of Shemek, but Shemek's kick out rebounded off James and into the goal. The third goal, Balumu gave the ball away, and Chelsea ended up scoring from that. The fourth goal, Ueki's loose pass was given away to Baltimore, and Baltimore's goal was a screamer. And then the fifth goal, Vivian Asseyi gave away the penalty. Whether it was a handball or not, that's debatable. But still, you can attribute all of Chelsea's goals to West Ham errors. And even, I think there was a chance on the highlights where I think it was Shakira Martinez gave the ball away. And Joanna Ritten-Kanerud went really close. I think she hit the bar with a vicious effort. So I think, it'll be worrying from West Ham. Obviously, during the winter break, they replaced Ryan Skinner with Rita Guarino. And look, Chelsea away as your first game is a tough one. And I think they've got in their next 4 games, they've got Leicester, Spurs, Brighton, Everton. That's a chunk of fixtures which she'd hope to start getting some points in and start settling into your kind of tenure as West Ham manager.
Yeah, I think being Chelsea away is probably a bit of a free hit as a sort of a new manager, that you're not expected to get anything from it. But those next games, West Ham are really where she's going to need to sort of get her team on side of her, doing what she wants them to do. And for West Ham's sake, hopefully getting some points, and hopefully they can use this, or they could have used this Chelsea game as a bit of like going through the structure and going through the passages of play and things. Whether or not they actually managed to do that, we can't really tell, I guess. Izzy, I want to ask you about Hannah Hampton, because obviously she was back. It was a big talking point in the fantasy world as well. Another clean sheet, and although Olivia Peng was sort of an okay deputy towards the end of 2025, it was sort of, I guess, good for Chelsea to have Hampton back, and they've got Arsenal at home, City away, and Spurs away in their next 3 fixtures. So how important do you think Hampton's going to be for those?
Well, the way Arsenal are looking, I don't think she'll be that important for the next game week, but the ones after, certainly, I think if you can have Hannah Hampton back in goal, that's exactly who you want. She obviously didn't have too much to do against West Ham, but the way sort of City and even Spurs are looking, like, you can expect a lot of shots on goal. And yeah, there's no one else that you want between the sticks. And yeah, if Sonia Bompastor's listening, could you please let us know about her injured status a little bit before we have to submit our transfers, please? Because I know that was a source of many stress for a lot of us, including myself.
Right, let's move on to one of the other ones at 12 p.m. on Sunday. This one at Villa Park, Aston Villa 2, Brighton 1. Sonoda giving Brighton the lead after just 11 minutes, but a quick fire double from Daly and Hansen in the second half secured all 3 points for the home team. Aston Villa go above Brighton in the process with that win and into the top half, so it is still quite tight in there. Kirsty Hansen is now outright second top scorer in the WSL this season with 6 goals. There are 5 players on 5 goals, and Bunny Shaw is a little bit ahead on 12. It'll be difficult for her to be caught. I was looking at some of the numbers at the end of this game, and I thought that actually Brighton really deserved a bit more out of this than the 2-1 loss. They had more shots, they had almost triple the XG, they had more possession, they completed more passes, they won more duels, they completed more dribbles, they made less tackles, which is normally a sign that you win a game. But obviously there is only one stat that matters, and that was the fact that Villa scored 2 goals that didn't come from a lot of XG as well. It was definitely a day to forget for Sophie Baggerly. 2 goals conceded from just 0.43 expected goals on target face. So yeah, minus 1.6 on the goals prevented for her, which is not good. Tom, obviously we went to go watch Brighton not that long ago. And yeah, there was a lot of clamour around Shamaka Nadozie and how good she was that day. And she was on the bench for this game. How much of a difference do you think she would have made?
I think she would have made a huge difference, Sam. I mean, you're talking about one of the best goalkeepers in the world, the best goalkeeper in Africa at the CAF Awards. She won that outright. And, you know, I think she had the best goals prevented in the first half of this season. I think it was either her or Hannah Hampton right up there, you know, the most XG prevented. And, you know, she's a phenomenal goalkeeper. I think Sophie Baggerly's a very good goalkeeper as well, but sometimes maybe it can be difficult to stay switched on if you're not having a huge amount to do. And obviously that's what the great goalkeepers are able to do in big teams. But obviously Brighton aren't always in those kind of situations where they're dominating games and not really giving their opponents much of a chance. And I think that Aston Villa in this game really looked off the pace for much of the first half. I thought obviously the first goal comes from Aston Villa not being able to deal with the Brighton press, and Sabrina D'Angelo passes the ball straight to Fuka Sonoda, who scores a fantastic goal. Might be making a late charge to that Japan Asia Cup squad. But yeah, a really, really good goal. And then they just don't take advantage enough. And we've seen this with Aston Villa in the past this season. You know, you've had like the Arsenal game where Arsenal didn't put it to bed. And I think the longer you give a manager like Natalia Arroyo in a game like this to hit back, she's going to figure out a way to do it. And yeah, obviously you've got one of the greatest strikers in the WSL ever, Rachel Daly, levels the scores, and then of course Kirsty Hansen, who's just on fire at the moment with a lovely finish. It almost took Sophie Baggerly off guard. It was such a sharp shooter type finish, and then Brighton just couldn't get back into the game and get that equaliser. And yeah, I think they'll be really frustrated. It is quite interesting. It's I think they're gonna rue this result. Obviously they had a chance to go into the top half, and it's Aston Villa who took that chance away from them. So it's going to be an interesting second half of the season, because I think these two are going to be neck and neck. And if Brighton can kind of convert that dominance into goals, then they have every chance of finishing in the top half. But yeah, I think they really missed Chiamaka and Ndozi, and I think any team would.
Let's move on to a team that are doing a little bit better this season. Manchester City, they beat Everton 2-0 at home at the Joy Stadium. Carolyn opening the scoring in the first half. An excellent solo run that ended with a shot deflected past Courtney Brosnan. I was adamant when I watched this that it was a cross, but according to the aerial fantasy gods, it was a shot, because that meant Kirsten Kasparov got an assist for me, which was fantastic news. Viv Miedema added a second just after the hour mark. Put through on a really good with a really good ball from Bunny Shaw, a 1-on-1 with Brosnan, and yeah, she made it 2. That's 11 WSL wins in a row for Man City, and they were very good value for it. 32 shots to 2, 3.8 xG to 0.4, and 3.4 expected goals on target to 0.2. Jacob, that's another win for Man City.
I mean, they were brilliant. I think 2-0 probably flatters Everton looking at the stats. We have to mention Courtney Brosnan on Everton's side, though, because 11 saves from Courtney Brosnan was fantastic. Yeah, it was City domination. I mean, Bunny Shaw, even though she didn't score, she had 12 shots. She had 2 xG. She had 0.7 expected assists, and she did get an assist for Viv Miedema's goal. 5 City players had more shots than the entire Everton team. Even Rebecca Kanak was in that. She had 3 shots, and she's obviously City's centre-back. On the defensive side, it's City's 4th clean sheet in 6 WSL games, which I think is a massive positive from them, especially at the beginning, because at the beginning of the season we were talking about maybe City's having some defensive weaknesses, but they've really shored that up. And then with Kanak coming back into the side in recent weeks and Greenwood coming back from her injury, I think that's a bright spot from City. And it's actually the second most XG any team have accumulated in any game this season. Only United have accumulated more XG, which was in their 3-3 draw against Spurs earlier in the season. I think the main talking point from the match will be the controversy over Everton's disallowed goal, which happened at 1-0 City, which would have made it 1-1. Ruby Mace was adjudged to foul Yamashita, and I think that will probably be the biggest talking point, because it looked like Yamashita went down quite easily, and then usually in those cases the decision kind of favours the keeper. But I think regardless, City were good value for their win, and yeah, looking really good, keeping that 6-point lead against Chelsea.
Yeah, I think with Man City not playing in as many competitions as well, obviously without the Champions League, they are very much in pole position for it. Tom, obviously, you love an opportunity to wax lyrical about any Irish player, and Courtney Brosnan had a pretty good game yesterday, 1.4 goals prevented. So despite the fact she conceded 2, she definitely should have conceded. An average keeper would have conceded at least 3 or 4. Yeah, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I make no secret of my admiration for Courtney Brosnan. I just think she's a phenomenal goalkeeper that's completely underrated. And yeah, Jacob said it, 11 saves, and 9 of those saves were from inside the box. So, that that's just so impressive. And I think she's not always given the kind of credit that she deserves with her feet as well, playing the ball with her feet, because you're playing against a Manchester City side who like to press you high up the pitch, and she's had the second highest passing accuracy of any goalkeeper this weekend in the league. It's only Hannah Hampton who had a higher passing accuracy than her this weekend. So she has it all. I mean, just as a goalkeeper, and there's just a couple of really brilliant saves. And, if you're only going to get beaten by a deflected effort you could do nothing about, and the all-time WSL top goal scorer, I mean, you could probably make your peace with that, I'd say.
A fantastic performance from a fantastic player. Let's move on to the last of the 12 o'clock games. Spurs 1, Leicester 0 at the Bet-Right. Ash Neville scoring the winner for Spurs. A sentence that would have made more sense last week when she was still a Spurs player, but in this game, it was her own goal that won it for her former side, and a game that Spurs probably did deserve to win. They had about 3/4 of possession. They had more than double the XG. They had 12 shots to 8 and completed 612 passes, just 175 for Leicester, 87% completion compared to 69. So that is a win that puts Spurs up into 4th. And Izzy, that's them ahead of United now and only behind Arsenal on goal difference. Spurs is obviously a team that have recruited really well this January window as well. And there are days and weeks still to go in this as well. Who do you think is in the front running for this 3rd place? Because I think we all know that Arsenal have got they've definitely got the fans behind them. They've definitely got probably the strongest squad at the start of the window. Man United have also recruited really well. And obviously both Man United and Arsenal do have Champions League to deal with as well. And Spurs don't, whereas they have recruited quite well. So where do you weigh stuff up? Who do you think's the favourite to get that 3rd place?
It's really difficult because I think from like a few different perspectives, I could see it literally going the way of each of those clubs. I know they've recruited, but I think what Tom was saying at the beginning of the pod was quite right about United. They need to, and sort of similarly maybe for Arsenal as well, have a bit more of that winning mentality that we're seeing from City and Chelsea if they're going to kind of make that case for 3rd. On the flip side, I think Spurs are showing tons of ambition. It's just whether they can kind of hold it out, I think, till the end of the season. I mean, we forget, this is Martin Ho's first season. There's a lot of new players. There's still a lot to figure out, and I think it's looking very promising for them. But at the end of the day, if you're going to try and get to that top 3, you need to kind of have a fair amount of squad depth and kind of experience behind you. And I think that's probably where I would say Arsenal would edge it, just on that kind of game and squad management piece. But to be honest, the way all 3 teams are playing, it's a terrible answer, but it could really go either way.
Yeah, it is a bit of a cop-out, that, not going to lie. But we'll let you off. And obviously, we can't touch on this game without going to Jacob. You were there at the game. I want you to give you, just a bit of time to talk about the game, but also to talk about your new signing that was straight into the starting lineup.
Yeah, Signe Gaupta. I thought she was brilliant. She was the only one of our signings to start the game. I thought there potentially might have been a couple more, but we did see Micah Hermano come off the bench. Gaupta was brilliant. She got the player of the match for the game. Looking at the stats, she had 8 progressive passes, which was the most in the match, 4 progressive carries, and 3 successful take-ons. Both of those were the second most in the match. But speaking more as a kind of viewer and watcher of the game, she just looked really, really confident, and I think that's what I'll take from it. Like in your first game in the WSL, she had some really nice link-up play on the left. She was linking up really well with Amanda Nilden and Olivia Holt. She had some shots and definitely could have kind of either got on the score sheet or got a goal contribution in some respect. She did only play 65 minutes. She made way for Micah Hermano. But I think she got a really good reception from all the Spurs fans. When she came off, she kind of did a lap around the pitch and got a round of applause and a standing ovation from most of the fans. And I think it's really, really exciting having her at Spurs. I think there's going to be a bit of talk, and Martin Ho was actually asked in his press conference around what Gaupta's best position is. I think Martin Ho said she's more fitted to play in an 8, but I think we saw her play a bit more progressive on Sunday in more of a 10 position, and I think it'll be interesting to see how Spurs' midfield adapts if Gaupta does play in the 8, because that will mean that one of maybe Simon or Spence will make way. But speaking more on the game as a whole, obviously, it's pretty ironic that Ashley Neville scored an own goal on her return to Spurs, and I did like the Ariel Fancy tweet about Ashley Neville being a traitor, but I did want to touch on the kind of more bigger picture of the fact that obviously Ashley Neville did leave Spurs and she'd been there since July 2017, so that's a long tenure. She will leave as a Spurs legend, 191 appearances, and she got a fantastic reception and fantastic atmosphere coming back to Brisbane Road. It was amazing that her first game back was at home for Spurs, so then the fans could kind of welcome her back. And after the full-time whistle, there was a presentation. The club presented her with a signed picture and a signed shirt, and all the Spurs players kind of came and did a bit of like a guard of honor for her. If you haven't seen it, I'd go and watch her farewell speech on Instagram. It was very emotional. It was brilliant. And then turning on to Spurs. It wasn't the prettiest game, but I think we were definitely good value for the win. We had a lot of chances late on to make it 2-0. Hunt hit the post. Claire Hunt hit the post with a close range shot. Toka Koga had a chance. She was honestly was through on goal from a nil then cross, but misplaced her shot. And in the last minute, Micah Hermano played a lovely through ball to Martha Thomas, who squared it to England, whose shot was saved. Spurs actually accumulated 1.4 out of their 1.7 XG from the 83rd minute onwards, which I thought was an interesting stat. But yeah, it's a brilliant win. It's another win against. It's another win that puts us fourth in the league, level on points with Arsenal in third. And actually, looking at Spurs' home record, we've got the second best home record in the league with 16 points. That's 5 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. The only drop points we've had at home have been the 0-0 draw in the North London derby and that early 5-1 loss to City. And all of Spurs' wins at home have been by 1 goal. So we haven't been blowing teams away, but we've been getting consistently those wins. And yeah, I think we've got a couple of games now that also look winnable on paper. So I really hope once those January signings start to kind of embed a bit more, I think, yeah, I'm just really excited for the next couple of months as a Spurs women's fan, not as a Spurs men's fan.
Right, okay, let's move on to the final game of the weekend. Liverpool 0, London City Lionesses 0, 2:30 at St Helens. Eda Meester's first WSL game in the London City Lionesses dugout. We're not going to touch on it for too long because it wasn't the most exciting game. A combined 0.6 XG for the two teams. Liverpool is still the only team yet to win in the WSL this season. But Tom, there was a debut for Alice Bergstrom and she very much caught the eye, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Eyes that were struggling to stay awake, I must say, watching this one, but they did stay awake, thankfully, to see this performance from Alice Bergstrom. And I think she gave them a new dynamic. She looked really dangerous, and we've seen this with Liverpool this season when Beata Olsen isn't playing. They really struggle to have any attacking edge, and I think Bergstrom was the player who gave them some modicum of that in this game. I thought it was interesting because last season when she was in BK Häcken's Damallsvenskan winning side, she played the majority of the season at right back, whereas before that she was far more accustomed. She used to play on the right wing. So it's interesting to kind of see her go back and play on the right wing. And I think it's a really strong right side of the pitch for Liverpool to have Alice Bergstrom and then behind her Risa Shimizu. I think that's a really, really, I'm really excited to see them play together. And Bergstrom probably creates one of the best opportunities for either side when she kind of gets the ball in the edge of the box and just kind of clips it towards that far post and it just kind of goes wide. But that was about as exciting as it got, I'm afraid, in this one. It's interesting because there was no shots on target in this game, but I think Liverpool had 8 shots to London City Lionesses 1. So that's a really interesting dynamic because I think coming into this game, that's not what you would have expected. You'd probably expect it to be the other way around. So maybe in an odd way, it's kind of Liverpool are coming away from this game, maybe feeling that they should have got more. They're the only team to have a big chance in this game. They obviously missed it. But yeah, so I think it was interesting from that perspective, but not one I'll be watching back, I must say.
Yeah, I can't imagine that being on I don't know, whatever the sort of WSL version of Premier League years will be one day. That'll never be something that makes the cut because it just was not a good game. I think with Eda Meester, I think he's going to be someone that's, well, for their sake, hopefully, but I think he might sort of galvanise them a bit as they go forward and get them being a bit more exciting. But we'll have to wait and see. They're the 6 games that happen this weekend. We're going to move on now, obviously, to Aerial Fantasy, the real game, the real competition. Obviously, whoever wins the Decoding the WSL League this season is going to win a WSL football shirt of their choice or 2 tickets to a game next season. And at the moment, once again, I think we've had this quite a lot this season. We've had someone take the lead pretty much every game week. This is Stanley's team, Villanova. They have taken the lead again. 71 points this week. I don't think it's the first time they've been top, but they weren't top last week or last game week. So another change at the top. There's quite a battle up there. There's quite a few teams, not many points apart. So if you are one of them, make sure you are paying attention. Make sure you are changing your team, making the right decisions. In terms of the best score in the Decoding the WSL League this week, I first want to give a shout out to 2 people on this podcast, because of the top 3 scores, Tom, you were third or joint third in Decoding the WSL League with 96, and Jacob, you were second with 97. But you were both pipped by NJ's team, Gooner FC, 102 points this game week. And although they are 112th in the Decoding the WSL League, I'm sure they'll keep moving up if they keep getting 100 points every week. It's a pretty, I think for you two, before we talk more about MJ's team, pretty good going for you two, because there's 500 people in this league. 500 of you, wonderful listeners, viewers, etc., joining us. And yeah, it shows that at least the people on the pod know what they're talking about, even if me and Izzy evidently don't. But we'll move on from that. MJ this week played the Wall. They had a goalkeeper and a back 5 that all got clean sheets, which very much helps when you play the Wall. And that included Carpenter at captain, who also got an assist. So 26 points, just for Ellie Carpenter in this game. A really, very much a good week. So congratulations, MJ. So you can keep that up for future. But that's all we had for you tonight. So thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Tom, for joining. Thank you, listener, viewer, for watching or listening to Decoding the WSL. As ever, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to subscribe or like wherever you get your podcasts. Go follow or subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And you can also follow at Decoding the WSL on Instagram for anything else. But other than that, thank you very much for joining us. There will be an episode of Know Your Stat coming your way. So we'll speak to you at the next one.